Now we'll look just one other passage on this ministry, which is in Luke 4:41. This is the same event described by Luke. Luke 4, verse 40 and 41. When the sun was setting, all those who had any that were sick with various diseases brought them to him. And he laid his hands on every one of them and healed them. And demons also came out of many, crying out and saying, "You are the Christ, the Son of God." Notice again that Jesus never separated healing from casting out demons, because demons are the cause of many sicknesses, sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly by creating attitudes in people which prevent them from receiving healing by faith.
Hey, much mercy to you brothers out there, and may you brothers continue to grow in the understanding of the Lord's doctrine. You have to abide in the Lord's doctrine. The scripture tell you about abiding in the Lord's doctrine. So it's not a world doctrine or a camp doctrine. It is the Lord's doctrine. You're not of the elect if you don't understand the Lord's doctrine and the Lord's testimony. You're not of the elect if you hate the Gentiles. You're not of the elect if you're not in the covenant. That means that you don't agree with God in this body. All right. Guys always talking about the elect. The elect were purchased with a price. So they're going to glorify the Lord in the Lord's covenant and in their body. Let me read something real quick. Because you have a lot of deceivers that are not confessing. And that word confessive goes into agreeing with the Lord's covenant. And a lot of these men are teaching in hate. So this is why, too, when you read in Mark 12, which these guys that never read, the Lord is telling you to beware of men standing in the marketplaces with long robes. All right. So these guys talk about the Lord in whom they call the anointed or Hamashiach, but then they'll hold you to the old law and make you wear old covenant garments. So men truly don't have an understanding. That means that you're double-minded. You're trying to play out both covenants because you don't ultimately have faith in the Lord's agreement. This is 1 John. Yeah, that's what you have out on the street, man. Just deceivers. They're deceiving themselves, and then they're deceiving their many of followers. The straight gate is the Lord. So the ones that really get to the straight gate are the ones that really believe, that really accept the Lord and his covenant, and the Gentiles. These men are standing on the street hating Gentiles. And you know what? One thing too that's really heavy that guys don't understand, that the 12 tribe chart and Israel and all that, for the majority of our people, that 12 tribe chart is obsolete just because of what happened in 70 AD. All of our people, the majority of them were cast out of Jerusalem, and that was the end. That was the Lord casting out people out of Jerusalem, and that pretty much marked the end of this. It's all about Israel. They blew that by breaking the old covenant. So when the Lord cast them out of the old covenant, out of Jerusalem, what had happened at that point, the majority of our people, even before the Lord came, they were cut off already. The Lord explains that clearly in John 3. So what we have in this time is our people that's been cut off, and they're provoked to jealousy because certain Gentiles believe, and they hate the fact that certain Gentiles are going to already, and this has already happened. The Gentiles are already grafted in, and our people were cut off. They're cut off through their doctrine, meaning that they can't understand that they're cursed under the law, trying to hold the law and Sabbaths and new moons. So men are truly cursed by teaching that doctrine. So another thing too, is not by your works, by you standing out on the street. It's not by your works. There is only one work that the scriptures tell you, that is that you believe in the Lord and his doctrine. This is 2 John 1:7, for many deceivers are entered into the world who confess not that the anointed Hamashiach, Jesus Christ, is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. So that word confess right here in the KJV, it goes into agreeing. So a lot of guys they don't really agree with the Lord, and this is why the Lord told you to beware. All right, the Lord told you to beware. Matter of fact, let's read 2 John 1:7 in the NLT. It says, I say this because many deceivers have gone out into the world. They denied that Jesus Christ came in a real body. Such a person is a deceiver and an antichrist. Watch out that you do not lose what we have worked so hard to achieve. Be diligent that you receive your full reward. Anyone who wanders away from the teaching, from this teaching. So John is talking about the teaching of the Lord Christ. This is the commandments you follow, the letters in red. That's it. Nothing holds weight over the letters in red. It tells you that in matter of fact, let's read this in Matthew 17. Matthew 17 and 5. It says, while yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. Hear ye him. You have to hear the Lord. John 15 and 4. Abide in me and I in you. So you have to abide in the Lord's word and his covenant. This ain't nothing about the old law. What's heavy is you have been holding you to the old law, and they are, it's like they're in between. So when they say they're in between covenants, yeah, they are literally in between. They're not in any covenant. You see what I'm saying? But the believer, you have to abide in the Lord. So by abiding in him, you're going to have his mind, you're going to have his heart, you're going to have his understanding. It says, abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit itself except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him bringeth forth much fruit, for without me ye can do nothing. You see? So guys that are not in the covenant, you're not doing anything out there on the street. A lot of you guys, ministry is in vain, because the only work ain't you being seen in the marketplace in long robes. That's not the work. The only work is to believe. That is the only work. And this is the work, the belief. If you don't have the belief, you don't have the work. If you're teaching men hate, that they can't have salvation because you hate it, you don't see it, then you don't have the fruits. You're not abiding. You see, guys think it's about them believing, or it's about them and what they think that the Gentiles can't make it, or them hating the Gentile like they got something to do with it. You see what I'm saying? A lot of you guys are going to be cut off here. This is like your last stop. You're not going to have in the kingdom certain men hating the Gentiles in the kingdom. That's not going to happen. You're not going to be in the spirit of you going into slavery, because that defeats the purpose of the Lord telling you to forgive them and love you and love your enemies. And so the ones that actually believe, and there's not that many people that actually believe, because you're dealing with men standing on the street. They don't even believe in the words in red. They're holding you to the old law, talking about Sabbaths and new moons, and got you in old covenant garments. And they have no understanding. John 15 and 5. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, so if you're not with the Lord, you're against him. So if you're waiting, you're against him. He that is cast forth as a branch is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burnt. He that abide not in me. So guys are not abiding in the Lord. They're abiding with men. Men are gathering men. So when you go to John 3, was that Matthew? Matthew tells you right here that men will be cast into the fire. Matthew 3:10. And now also the axe is laid into the root of the trees. Therefore every tree which bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. So men are going to be cast down and hewn in the fire. You see? So if you're not bringing forth fruit, the fruits of the Spirit are the fruits of the new covenant, man. That's what the new covenant is about. So if you don't have the fruits of the Spirit and you're in the spirit of hate, murder, envy, a lot of you guys hate the fact that certain Gentiles believe, and it's not even a big deal. It's not about Israel no more. It's not about that 12 tribe chart. So what men have done, they have totally subverted your soul and getting you to believe this is something carnal. It's about the 12 tribes. It's not about the 12 tribes. It's about all that believe now. Adam wasn't from no tribe. And this is why the Lord redeemed Adam. So guys are teaching this doctrine where it's just for a certain race and a certain bloodline. It's not like that. All that believe in this time. And not everybody's going to believe. It's not about no carnal bloodlines. It's not about none of that. Galatians 5:22. But the fruits of the Spirit is love. It's some guys that don't have. And love goes into mercy and it goes into charity. It's something you guys don't have for yourself and for other nations. Because if you did, you would be teaching men to have mercy on people that believe. It's just that simple. But guys don't have mercy on people that believe. So they're not going to teach you to have mercy on men that believe because they don't believe. You see what I'm saying? They don't believe. But the Gentiles that believe, they hate them. They hate that idea. Oh, it's all about the Gentiles. Right, because the Lord cut the majority of our people off. And the ones that, it's crazy because the ones that the Lord cut off, they're in the forefront out there on the streets teaching hate. And they're not even in the covenant with the Lord yet. They're waiting. And everything took place in the first century. So if you're still teaching men this camp doctrine that the Gentiles and the covenant ain't here, then you don't have anything, bro. Men are really teaching in darkness, man. The veil is over man's faces, bro. It's not about information. It's about revelation. So if the Lord didn't reveal that the Gentiles were already brought in and the new covenant is here already, then you're lost out there on the street. That work you're doing is in vain, man. It's heavy. And a lot of guys, they can't hear the words of the Lord because they hate the Lord. You see what I'm saying? Every time the Lord would encounter the scribes and the Pharisees, he would they didn't understand what he was talking about. It's heavy. Let me read this up here. Galatians 5:18. But if you are led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. So if the Spirit is leading you, revealing things to you, showing you certain things, then you're not under the old law. Let's jump down to 22. So guys are under the works of the flesh. Which the works of the flesh goes into envyings, murders, drunkenness, reviling, such like. It goes into idolatry, witchcraft. So if you're holding man to the old law, that's witchcraft. If you're honoring men, that's idolatry. Witchcraft. You're teaching men to hold the old law. Hatred. You're teaching men that only ones can make it is Israel. That's hatred. You see? And that man, all types of heresy, wrath and strife. Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. So we have a peace of mind, knowing that by us believing and teaching men mercy and teaching men all that believe can be justified, we have a sense of peace. Because we're not using this to lie or to hold things back from people or teaching hate. So we have a sense of peace. Long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such, there is no law against. So there's no law against us having these fruits of the Spirit. So if you don't have those fruits of the Spirit, Matthew said you're going to be taken and you're going to be hewn down. So you looking down on certain men that believe and men that haven't that have mercy and they care about the Gentiles, you looking down on that, you're gonna be hewn down. Because showing mercy and forgiveness, those are fruits of the Spirit, and a lot of you guys don't have fruits of the Spirit. You're just carnal, and you're teaching with hate. So it's like, yeah, you standing on the street, but your whole thing is about hate and slavery. And let me tell you this: he that leadeth into captivity. When you hold men to the old law, you're holding men captive. This is why the Lord tells you, I think it was in Isaiah 61, I think it was. But he tells you back then that he was coming to set the captives free. And then he reiterates that in Luke 4. So you guys that are holding men to the law, you're holding men into captivity. This is why the Lord said you're going to go into captivity. You guys are so carnal, man. You guys don't understand. Everything in the Bible is spiritual. So like when you go to Revelations, you can't look at Revelations literal like that. Guys think everything is carnal. The white man put us into slavery. No. Satan got you enslaved under the old law, and men that are holding you to the old law, you're holding men in captivity too. Matthew 3:10, and now also the axe is laid to the root of the trees. Therefore every tree, and men are referred to as trees, which bringeth not forth good fruit, is hewn down and cast into the fire. So if you're not bringing fruits of the Spirit, you're going to be cast down and into the fire. Now let's go back to 2 John 1 in the NLT. It says, anyone who wanders from this teaching, the new covenant teaching, not camp doctrine of things of the world. That's the world and the microchips and anything in the news in the world. You're of the world, all right? That is not the gospel. And what you think about the Gentiles and the 12 tribes, and it's not about that anymore. All that believe are justified. You only have a remnant of our people and a remnant of the heathens. What's so hard about that? The hatred. You guys hate the idea of Gentiles actually believing because you don't actually believe. 2 John 1:9, anyone who wanders away from this teaching has no relationship with God. So if you're wandering away from the doctrine of Christ, because in the KJV it tells you, anyone that abideth not in the doctrine of Christ have not God. So in the NLT it says, anyone who wanders away from this teaching has no relationship with God. But anyone who remains in the teaching of Christ has a relationship with both Father and the Son. Do you understand that? So he that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, in the KJV, have both the Father and the Son. Verse 10, 2 John 1:10, if anyone comes to your meeting and does not teach the truth about the anointed, don't invite that person into your house or give any kind of encouragement. So if men are not teaching the new covenant doctrine and forgiveness and teaching men to have mercy, or they're not teaching the Lord's covenant, the Lord said don't even bring them in your house, man. Stay away from these guys. So that brings us to this right here. Let's go to this. Mark 12 and 38 in the KJV. Then I'm going to read it in the NLT. So you have to beware of these guys teaching on the street. There's only one work, and that work is belief. It is not by your works. So guys think their works is standing out on the street in old covenant garments because they think their works is of the old law. So all that is in vain what men are doing. And we're telling you guys, sincerely, like you guys teaching out there on the street in old covenant garments, hating the Gentiles and hating the new covenant, and you're not in it, your whole ministry is vain. It's just for the world. You guys are teaching for the world. That's what you're teaching for. Mark 12 and 38, and he said unto them in his doctrine, beware of the scribes, which love to go in long clothing and love salutations in the marketplace. Now let's read this in the NLT. So you have to beware. Mark 12 and 38 in the NLT. Jesus also taught, beware of these teachers of religious law, For they like to parade around and flowing in robes and receive respectful greetings as they walk in the marketplace. You see? So you have to beware of these guys that are wearing these garments on the streets. You have to. Because they are ministering the ministry of Satan. And they don't have no faith in the Lord. Whatever they're calling on the Lord, they didn't call the Lord that in the first century. Do your homework. All right? Do your homework. They wasn't speaking Paleo Hebrew. Even in Acts 2, it tells you all the languages. It doesn't tell you Paleo Hebrew was in there. All right? It doesn't tell you that. Mark 12 and 39, and how they love the seats of honor in the synagogues, all this honor shit, this double honor shit. And they took that scripture all way out of context. It's not an honor of the world, it's an honor of the spirit. And you don't understand that because you're not in the spirit. It says, and how they love the seats of honor in the synagogues and in the head tables at banquets. Yet shamelessly cheat widows out of their property, then pretend to be pious and making long prayers in public. Because of this, they will be more severely punished. It tells you they shall receive the greater damnation in the KJV. So you have to beware of these guys on the streets. They're in the spirit of Satan. They're in the spirit of hate, man. They don't have no understanding of what the Lord really brought. All right. And this is why the Lord said that they are from the earth. The Lord said he's from above. So if we can understand, for the one of you brothers that really understand this covenant and what the Lord is saying, you are highly blessed. You're highly blessed in this last day, man. Repent to the Lord's gospel and understand his words. Therefore, you reject his words and you hate his words and you're in the spirit of hate. Your whole ministry is in vain. 40 years in vain. Guy's been teaching false doctrine. And twisting the scriptures up. And it's all over now. Just by the few that believe. That's it. And with that, shalom.
Flagman.